folks, it's Professor Vitt, and I am here to cover some of the following questions which will be on your mock exam. Now remember, this is not the fallacies video where I go through those fallacy questions. This is the stuff that we did the second half of the semester with a couple of first semester questions thrown in there. I'll explain all of them, and when it occurs to me, whether it's first or second semester, I'll mention it, at least if it's first, but it really won't matter because we're covering it all. So, couple of quick things. The fallacy questions are available at this link. I'm going to change the order of these questions, and I'm going to change the order of possible answers, and I'm also going to change the silly sort of quotes or the funny parts of the questions. So there will be some change, but it won't be terribly drastic. And remember, it's just be careful to read each question carefully before you begin. And if I don't say this in class, man, it has really been a pleasure to have all of you in the class this semester. I know several of you, it was total chaos. You had 1,000 other things going on, but you did just super duper well. And so thank you for taking this class and sticking it out this far. It's really been a great semester. Okay, first section is going to be true, false. Here we go. Number one, the representativeness heuristic is the tendency of the brain to misjudge probabilities. In simple terms, like goes with like. And this is true. That is what the representative heuristic does. We only really addressed it within the context of conspiracy theories. It does pop up in other places, but the idea is something like there's a certain element of disbelief when someone finds out that, say, the President of the United States was killed by a lone gunman. That just seems, who spent $13 on a gun. This just doesn't seem right. It seems like there had to be a bigger plan at stake, more moving pieces. That kind of residue, that sort of cognitive residue is exactly the representativeness heuristic. Number two, Edward Bernays thinks that the true ruling power of our country are those people who organize the habits and opinions of the masses. That's true. That's what he says. Now, you may not agree with that, but that was his position. Number three, people always buy things on a rational basis. That is, people do not buy an object to show status or compensate for psychological needs. False. That is false, right? People don't buy things on a rational basis. This is the point. People often purchase things to show status or to compensate for some other psychological need that they may have. Now, there are cases where people obviously buy things because they need them and it's rational. It's totally fine. We all buy stuff. But this is just to highlight this point, right? The goal here is to think rationally. Number four, fallacies are the proper way to think. They do not happen very often, so there are no names for them. That's incorrect. Both of those statements are false. Fallacies are the improper way to think, and they do happen very often, and so much so that we actually do have names for them. Number five, critical thinking is thinking about thinking. That's true. That's essentially right. There is no one canonical, definitive, absolute, no matter where you go, definition for critical thinking. But when we consider all the different kinds of activities that critical thinking addresses, it really is thinking about thinking, and you might call it metacognition if you want like a $5 word. It just means you're thinking about how you think. You're reflecting on how you think. You're analyzing how you think. Number six, illusory optimism is a bias that occurs when a person believes he or she has a lesser risk of experiencing a negative event compared to others. Okay, this is true. Remember, we used the example of Professor Vitt having a car accident. I never thought I needed the additional cost every month for rental insurance. I never thought I'd need it. I never really had a big car accident. Well, guess what? I did. It wasn't big, but it was a car accident. And so the idea that, oh, this won't happen to me can have negative consequences. People don't buy life insurance. They don't buy disability insurance because they don't think they will ever need it. And then when they do, they wish that they had. It also pops up, and I didn't cover this too much in class, but it also pops up when you make a list and you don't get through the list. That's absolutely illusory optimism. This kind of optimism that you can get all this stuff done. Number 7, Occam's razor states the simplest explanation is the worst. The explanation, something we already know exists or is true. The explanation is something we already know exists or is true. So this is false. Remember, Occam's razor states the simplest I'm sorry if I read that improperly. Let me read it one more time because I don't remember how I read it. Number 7, Occam's razor states the simplest explanation is the worst. The explanation is something we already know exists or is true. Okay, that's false. Remember, Occam's razor says the simplest explanation is the best. Number 8, there are lots of UFO sightings which at first glance might be convincing. Okay, true, right? I mean, there are, look at the Phoenix Lights case. Hundreds of people saw this stuff in the sky. The governor of the entire state saw it. He was a fighter pilot. He was a lawyer. He went to Harvard. I mean, on first glance, it seems really like, oh, wow, okay, I didn't know that. It doesn't mean upon inspection that they're ultimately convincing, but what it intends to show you is that there's a lot that we don't know, and in order to fully understand and to analyze something, we have to be willing to really examine the evidence. And if we don't do that, and we just rely on our prejudgments, we're not really thinking about thinking in the proper way. We're not thinking critically. Number 9, the evidence for second sight is overwhelming and cannot be attributed to any other type of bias, such as confirmation bias. Okay, that's false. Remember, that's the first part of the semester where we discussed how it is that psychics can do a cold reading and it looks like, oh my gosh, to the person who's already a believer, this person is really doing this amazing reading, but we tend to count the hits and forget the misses. All right, short answer, couple of things. Always read the entire question. Don't skim it because I may be doing a little trick. When taking multiple choice questions, start from the bottom. Eliminate bad answer choices first. If something doesn't look familiar on my exam, it probably isn't. And if everything else fails and you really don't know, just go with your gut. You may be right. Okay, number 10. Media is shrink wrap means which of the following? A, composers of media generally want something from you. For example, they want you to buy something or associate something with status or to think a certain way. B, media is a product, not a revealed truth. C, media contains unadulterated truth. D, at least 2 of these answers is correct. Okay, so remember the format of this. Because we have this at least 2 of these answers is correct, we want to make sure that at least 2 of these answers aren't correct. So we look at A, and this is actually correct. Composers of media want something from you. They want you to buy something or associate something with status or to think a certain way. So that's correct. We had examples of statues, we had examples of commercials, YouTube videos, you name it. B, media is a product, not a revealed truth. So that's right. We talked about how it's produced. That's just what shrink wrap means. Something is shrink wrapped, it's all been made and it's ready for you to unwrap it. That's kind of a good metaphor for media. All right, C is false. It's the opposite of B. So D is your best answer there. At least 2 of these answers is correct. Number 11, which of the following is not a reason to study critical thinking? A, we're always thinking we should do it right. B, we want to maximize true beliefs and minimize false ones. Procedures of critical thinking help us do that. C, better thinking means better decisions, means better life. We make decisions all the time in all aspects of our lives. If we can think more clearly about our options and their consequences, then we can make a more informed decision. D, well, life is too short, so love the one you've got. E, beliefs in the paranormal are common. If they are incorrect, then they should be revised. So our answer here is going to be D, the Sublime lyric. Well, life is too short, so love the one you got. From Long Beach. A quick note, remember I'll change some of these so that they're not exactly the same. Number 12. According to Edward Bernays in his book Propaganda, A, the conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. B, those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. C, universal literacy was supposed to educate people. Instead, it seems to function like a rubber stamp making machine, stamping out identical wants, thoughts, and desires. D, each of these is correct. I'm just going to give you the shortcut here. D, each of these is correct. So this just comes from the text itself, and it's also located in the slide presentation, but I linked to excerpts from his book on Canvas. Good, just worth a look. It really is. It's a good book, and it's also in the public domain. Number 13, the birthday problem asks, what is the minimum number of people you need in a group for it to be more likely than not that two of them have the same birthday? A, what is the answer to this problem? Oh, you know what? I'm going to wipe this out. We're not going to do this one. Hold on. This is a short answer. We ain't going to do that. All right. Don't you love that? Okay, so we're wiping out number 13. We're not going to do that one. All right. Sorry about that. And I'll show you how footloose I am. I'm not even going to edit that out. Boom. So I read that whole thing for nothing. Somebody's out there saying, thanks a lot, Professor Vitt. All right. Number 13. Might as well has gone to a $900 seminar, quote, communicate with your dead loved ones, end quote, with about 300 other people. Midas leaves the seminar believing that the psychic has contacted his dead Uncle Ted, who, the psychic has pointed out, liked water and was a happy person. The psychic even said the name started with a T. Which of the following answers best explains the thinking of Midas well? A, Midas is experiencing confirmation bias. B, Midas is experiencing confirmation bias because he's probably counting the hits made by the psychic, for example, a name starting with T, liking water, being happy, etc., and forgetting the misses, other names that start with different letters. C, it's only because of their stupidity that they're able to be so sure of themselves. D, Midas is probably right that the psychic of the seminar was communicating, I'll just throw it in there, with the dead. E, Midas has a knack. Everything Midas touches turns to gold. All right, so remember, think of the prompt. Which of the following answers best explains the thinking of Midas, right? He comes out, he believes this is actually occurring. It's going to be between, so C is just a quote. D is incorrect, right? We don't want to say that because we want to adopt Occam's razor. We want the most simple explanation. If we can explain the behavior without referring to the dead, all right, because we don't know that they're there to talk to. You may think that, you may believe that, a lot of people do, but remember, we're going to apply Occam's razor here. We're going to be as conservative as possible. We know confirmation bias exists, so we're going to choose either A or B. E is just a silly joke. And between A and B, B is a more detailed, more complete, more full answer. Number 14, which of the following best defines agency and patternicity for conspiracism? A, seeing patterns of agency even when there is no pattern and there is no abdication of erudition and disestablishmentarianism. I always use disestablishmentarianism when I need to give you a distractor, so you know that one's totally wrong. B, seeing patterns of agency whether they are there or not. C, conspiracy is an agreement between two or more people to commit a crime. D, seeing patterns of agency whether they are there or not. This means that sometimes coincidences appear to conspiracists as intentional arrangements or actions. E, the special counsel has declined to make a traditional prosecutorial binary decision. All right, A is a distractor. E is also a distractor. So we're looking at B, C, and D. C is a proper statement of conspiracy, but it has nothing to do with agency and patternicity. In other words, C is correct, but it doesn't answer, it's not relevant to the prompt. It doesn't answer the question. So we're looking at B or D. B or D, B or D. D is more full and complete. B isn't a bad answer, but D is better. Number 16, the photocopy effect demonstrates which of the following. So remember the photocopy effect. We have a piece of paper, we make a Xerox copy of it, and the Xerox copy is 97% of the original information. A little bit gets lost. We take the copy and put it through again. Boom, now 97% of the 97% comes through this next time. And we do it again and again and again and again. Now, why did we have that example? because it's the same kind of math that's involved if you have, say, 10 people, all of whom are in a conspiracy, and the first person has a 97% chance of success, and then the next person has the 97% chance of success, and the next, and the next, and the next. Even if you have 10 people, and they all have like 97% chance of succeeding, it will not take that many people until you hit a really low number and you're at like 50 some odd percent. And so big, huge conspiracies, which entail strings of actors doing things, in some cases remarkably complex and difficult tasks, those things are going to be inherently improbable. It's not impossible. It's certainly not impossible, but they're unlikely and they would need to be substantiated by extraordinary evidence. So that's kind of the thumbnail. Let's look at this. Remember, lots and lots of options here. You want to try and, there's so much reading here and you don't have much time. You want to try and knock out the ones that are wrong. So what does the photocopy effect demonstrate? Larger conspiracies are less likely than smaller ones. So larger conspiracies are more likely? No, that's going to be wrong. Larger conspiracies are more likely than smaller conspiracies? No, that's wrong. Okay, so A and B are gone. So even if you're guessing, you've gone from 1 out of 5 to 1 out of 3. 20% to, 30%. That's good. I'll take it. Now, larger conspiracies are less likely than smaller conspiracies. Okay, that's good. D looks like a general answer, but if either C or E are going to be more complete and more correct, then we want to pick one of those. So we'll put D in our back pocket, but let's decide between B and E. Larger conspiracies are less likely than smaller conspiracies because of the nature of the math involved. Okay, so B and E are the same first sentence. Now let's look at, C and E are the same first sentence. Now let's look at C. Specifically, the likelihood of a conspiracy succeeding is the addition of each of the conspirators' probability of success. Here we have specifically the likelihood of a conspiracy succeeding is the product of each of the conspirators' probability of success. That's more correct. E is, remember the photocopy effect. It's 97% times 97% times 97 times, not addition, product, multiplication. So E is the better answer. Number 17. Wash removes the hat from his head and begins speaking. Oh, listen, the British still control the United States. In fact, as a practical matter, the Americans never really won the Revolutionary War. That's an illusion. We're being controlled by the British. We have been since 1776. The reason you cannot find any evidence about this is that the government has covered the whole thing up. The lack of evidence proves my point. Which of the following is the best critical diagnosis of Wash's statement? So what I'm asking there is, how would a critical thinker think about this? All right, so this is one of these ones where we have at least an option that says at least 2 of these are correct. So let's see if we can't eliminate a bad answer between A, B, and C and then narrow down between the other 2 and see if they both work. C. Wash has a good point here. Even the President of the United States still calls the Queen by her title. Plus, my uncle works for the U.S. government, and he makes us watch British TV shows. Okay, so C is not going to work. It's a distractor. So you're looking at A and B, and if they're both correct, then you know D is going to be the right answer. But do you notice how if you're just reading right away and you just read A, you go, oh, A is right, and then you'd miss the rest of it? It separates out people. This is very often how multiple choice questions are written, so just keep it in mind. A. This is a wildly improbable claim. If the United States were secretly controlled by the British government, then that would require thousands and thousands of people to keep the conspiracy secret. This is mathematically improbable and therefore an extraordinary claim. All right, I like that one. That's good. Let's look at B. This is an evidentiary issue. When Wash says there's no evidence and that proves my point, he's really saying the absence of evidence is evidence. But if that were really true, then almost any theory could be considered true. Okay, A and B are both pretty good, so D is our best answer. At least 2 of these possible answers is correct. All right, number 18. Clean puts down his magnifying glass and shows you the image below this question. This one right here. He then continues, quote, "See, you can totally make out the badge man and two other people to the right and left." Critically evaluate Clean's statement. Which of the following is true? A, patternicity. Clean's brain is perceiving a pattern, but we can readily verify that this is in fact the badge man. B, Clean is seeing a pattern of agency here. C, trapped in a box of tremendous size, it distorts my vision, it closes my eyes, attracts filthy flies and pollutes in the skies, sucks up our lives and proliferates lies. Okay. D, Clean is seeing a pattern here. It's not clear that it is a real one. E, Clean is detecting a pattern because he already believes that it's likely there would be one there. The thing he's looking at is so ill-defined that he can see lots of different things in it. All right. Well, what's gonna go here? A, can we readily verify that this is the badge man? No, this is sort of the whole point. B, Clean is seeing a pattern of agency here. Yeah, that's true, but is that the best answer? Let's hold on to B and put it in our back pocket. C is just a no doubt lyric. D, Clean is seeing a pattern here, but it's not clear if it's a real one. Oh, yeah, that's right. D's okay. So B and D are all right. E, Clean is detecting a pattern because he already believes that it's likely there would be one there. The thing he's looking at is so ill-defined that he can see lots of different things in it, and the answer E is correct. So our answer there is E for number 18. All right, number 19, we got a break in the page, so let me futz it so that it'll get down there. Okay, here we go. Whew, this one's a big one. Take a breather, you're almost done. We have 19 to 23, so we just have 4 more. This ain't bad. All right, here we go. Number 19. The following question is a continuation of the one previous to it. Wash responds to Clean. Quote, "Look, you're just seeing fuzzy patterns here. If you stare at this long enough, you will see what you want. Besides, ballistics establishes that Kennedy was shot from behind." Angrily, Clean gets up from the table, right? "Wash, how can you miss something so obvious? I can see 3 people here. One of them is holding a radio. The other one is writing something down in a book. Besides, it's well known that the Warren Commission is a cover-up conspiracy of its own. You cannot trust any of their conclusions. Which of the following best describes Clean's response to Wash? A, Clean is experiencing the backfire effect. Clean is presented with evidence that threatens his beliefs, and so he's doubling down on his original belief. Okay, that sounds all right. It's a good general thing. B, Clean is experiencing the backfire effect. Clean is presented with ballistics evidence from the Warren Commission that threatens his beliefs in a grassy knoll shooter. As a result, he's doubling down on his original belief that there is another shooter on the grassy knoll. Okay, A and B are both good. B's a little better, though. It has a little more information. C, Clean is experiencing patternicity. D, Clean is experiencing the backfire effect. Clean is presented with ballistics evidence from the Warren Commission that threatens his belief in a grassy knoll shooter. As a result, he's doubling down on his original belief that there's another shooter on the grassy knoll by discounting the publicly available evidence. All right, so between A and B, B was a little better. But now we have to measure B against D, right? What's the difference? D is just a skosh better, and the reason why is right here. The publicly available evidence. And what publicly available evidence means is anybody can go and look. And that's the problem, is that eventually conspiracy theorists, if conspiracists go too far, in order to maintain the conspiracy, they have to discount a sort of global consensus of evidence, and the normal rules of evidence no longer apply. It's called epistemic closure. But D is our best answer there. All right, number 20. Which of the following best explains the medium is the message as it is understood in this course? A, how we absorb information affects how we learn it. B, love takes off masks that we fear we cannot live without and know we cannot live within. James Baldwin. C, How we absorb information affects how we learn it. Consider the unavailability heuristic. Things that more easily come to mind, that is to say, things that are more cognitively fluent or more readily accepted as true. D. How we absorb information affects how we learn it. Consider the availability heuristic. Things that more easily come to mind, that is to say, things that are more cognitively fluent or more readily accepted as true. So between C and D, right, because B is a quote, it's a nice quote, but it's not responsive to the question. A isn't bad, but both C and D give us more information, so we have to decide between the two. And here, what I'm ultimately testing you on is whether or not you know the name for the availability heuristic, and that is, again, what it says. Things that more easily come to mind or more readily accepted as true or correct. So 20 is D. Number 21. If extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, then which of the following sets of facts, if true, would be the best evidence for the claim that, quote, Professor Vitt flew to Long Beach City College with his hands, end quote? A short written testimony from one of Professor Vitt's students, can he do it, who wrote, yes, he can really do it. B, Professor Vitt's story that he flew to school. C, Professor Vitt flies to Long Beach City College by flapping his hands repeatedly and publicly for anyone who asks. He does this several 100,000 times. D, a number of eyewitness students who saw Professor Vitt from a far distance away. E, a 15-second video shot by a student's cell phone and posted online years after the event was said to have happened. Okay, folks, our best one here is going to be C. Look, testimonies, stories, that's not going to help us. Videos, it's probably better than a story. It's an artifact. We can investigate it. Maybe we can detect it was altered. But the best of that, the absolute best evidence to conform with the rule that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence would be C. Because if I publicly demonstrated that capability for anybody who asked me to do it, and I did that several 100,000 times, that would be extraordinary evidence. So our best answer there is C. All right. This leads us to the burden of proof questions here with the gumball. Maybe you guys remember that. Okay, the gumball is an old example, but it is a good one. It's been around for a while. Number 22. Clean and wash are in a contest to guess the number of gumballs in a jar. They have 2 weeks to inspect the jar, but they may only look at it. After a couple of days, Wash asks Clean, quote, do you think there are an even number of gumballs in the jar? Clean answers, no. Wash then says, so you think the number of gumballs is odd? That's crazy! Which of the following is the best response Clean can give to explain his position? Okay. A, correct. If I don't think the number of balls in there is even by logic, I must think that the number of balls is odd. It must be one or the other. B, events that occur at random will seem to come in clusters because it would take a non-random process to space them out. I'm already pretty spaced out. C, there may be an even number of gumballs in there. I don't know. I just don't have enough evidence to say that there are. I can't take the balls out and count them to say for sure. Notice that's a reference to demonstration. D, I'm suspending my belief on the number of gumballs until I finish watching Stranger Things Season 2. There are some hints in there that I think directly pertain to this issue. E, okay, I see. If I don't think there are an even number of gumballs in the jar, then I must think that the number of gumballs in the jar must be odd. Okay, so remember, A and E are eerily similar, but the idea here is that Clean has not made up his mind yet. Clean has not made up their mind yet, and so Clean doesn't know. There may be an even number, there may be an odd number. It's like if we were serving on a jury, and you said, and it's the first day of opening arguments, and you ask me, do you think that the defendant is guilty? And I say, I don't know, I haven't seen the evidence yet. Although technically guilt is, don't worry about that. The point is, I may not have made up my mind as to guilt or innocence of a defendant, which way I'll vote. It doesn't mean that it's not one way or the other. I just haven't made a claim either way. That's the insight here for this answer. And so we're looking at C as our best answer, and here's why. A and E are distractors, right? B is correct, but it's not relevant to the question. And then Stranger Things Season 2 is just silliness. So we will pick between, so C is going to be our best answer. All right, 23, we only have, ooh, this is our last one. Oh, well, will you look at that? I thought there was another one. Okay, so this is it. You're almost done. Yay! Okay, with this one anyway. If you haven't seen the fallacy video yet, then you can go do that one. But you're almost done here. You've done it. You've sat through this. Way to go. It is a good thing for you. Congratulations. All right, number 23. What is the availability heuristic? How does it relate to the statement, woes unite foes? Oh, no, we're not even going to do this one. It's a short answer, so we're not doing that. Yeah, this is a short answer question, and we ain't going to do it. So I'm going to wipe that one out. Boom. So actually, you're done. You've done your review of these questions. Good luck on your examination. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to let me know. I really welcome the feedback. And if I've made any obvious errors in here, obviously let me know that too. I've been doing this so long that sometimes I tend to not be as mindful as I should be. You'd be doing me and everybody else looking at this video a favor. All right. Hey, have a fantastic break before you take the examination. Please let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Remember that you have to turn in the work for the class before the close of the class period on June the 5th. I cannot accept anything after that time. So much appreciated, and I look forward to seeing you all.